Perfect. All right. Here we are for our Mastermind podcast. I think this is the second episode that we're doing where we get to, I get the pleasure to meet with advisors, get to learn about their practice a little bit more, talk about what's working, what's not working. I actually really look forward to these podcast recordings because, I'm really intrigued to hear, what's going on out there in the world and how people are closing such good business. So today, I'm happy to introduce Lynn Stokes here. I know we've been working together for a little bit, but for those that don't know, do you mind just giving a little bit of a background?
Yeah, we started last year, but my background is kind of different. I got into IULs back in 2010 on a website that went viral. It was a financial planning website that was run by a a internet marketer who had a lot of affiliate marketers that followed him, and so they just blanketed the internet with ads, and he gave them half of the revenue. It was a subscription model, and all these leads came flooding in, and I had never sold IUL in my life, but I had a guy that was doing it. He said, I need help. And so I was just thrown into the fire. I mean, probably 6 to 8 financial reviews per day. And these people had already watched a 45-minute video. And when they came on, they're like, yeah, I think this is what I want to do. So it was almost like pre-sold in a way, which is a lot different than we're doing right now. Although what we're doing, they are educated up to a point, but it's not as much as just write up an order. It's more like you have to really be good at this to succeed with Mastermind or any kind of virtual leads. It's a skill set in itself. So long story short, I got into that. That kind of fell by the wayside after about a year, but it was great for a year. I mean, we killed it. I think I wrote $1 million in comp in one year,
Jeez.
and then I got it sidetracked into private equity, which was a detour in my life that didn't pay off, and so just pretty recently, I got back into insurance sales, and I really didn't have that much background in annuities. I had only sold really a couple of them, to be honest with you. So I'm having to deal with the learning curve with annuity sales and products and all that, plus learn how to sell virtually, um, which is a whole different skill set. So that's my background. I came on board with you guys, got kind of a slow start in the beginning. Um, had one really nice sale that and the lady turned into a good client, and that kind of paid for all of the advertising I'd done. And then the holidays came, and then we restarted after the holidays. Took a little breather, and when you start out, the funnel has to kick into gear, and it takes time to fill the funnel. And then once the appointments start showing up, then it takes time to the sales cycle is another easy month to 2 months. So it does take time. You do have to invest. Uh, but what I have seen, it looks to me like this is what I've been looking for a long, long time.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. I think something that's really cool. I mean, I didn't know that you started off in the industry with IULs and you were doing virtual, really from the get go, which is
That was
rad.
all over the phone, actually. I don't think we did any video conferencing. It was just
That's
all over
crazy.
the phone.
That's crazy. But yeah, so I know you've been really dialing in on these virtual side on our funnel setup. And I know there's been a learning curve there as well. Just curious on like what's the biggest thing that you learned from these practices with the appointments that you've gotten that you can kind of take on. That's kind of like the one thing that you changed that really made these appointments a little more successful for you virtually. Because I know a lot of advisors can struggle with the virtual side of appointments, right? And it is harder to close and bring on business via Zoom or like that. But it seems like you're really starting to pick up some speed. So any insight would be awesome.
Well, it's an ongoing learning process. I mean, I'm still learning, but you start off. There's the technology side of that's a learning curve for me. I mean, the calendar, integration and the actual technology. You got Zoom and you got Google meetings, and you're going to make every mistake you can imagine. I just learned the other day, as a matter of fact, that when I'm on Google Meeting on Chrome, if I have another Chrome window open at the time, I can't share documents. And I had
Oh,
no idea. I was with a client. He was kind of a jerk anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. But because he was on his phone for a financial planning call driving, and
perfect.
how serious is he at that point? But
All right.
as luck would have it, I couldn't share anything with him because of the Chrome window being open. So I reset the appointment and I got online and I researched it. And apparently, with Chrome, you got to shut down all your other windows and just have one window open for that to work. So now I've learned that. But just the technology side is one aspect. Then there's the sales side, which I've learned a lot from you guys, and I'm also, studying on my own. Uh, but it's basically asking the right questions and going deep into it and learning how to get the information in a conversational manner. Uh, you know, my preference would be, oh, you want me to help you here? I'm gonna email you a form, financial form, fill it all out, and send it back to me, and then we'll talk. And then you never see him again. I guarantee you never
Yeah.
see him again.
Yeah.
So you have to, first of all, they have to like you. You have to keep them engaged. They have to see right in the beginning something that makes them want to do business with you, or at least hang for a little while. So there's something about the first 5 seconds of any interaction is that's where it's all happens.
Mm.
It's really kind of strange, but I've read some Grant Cardone and stuff like that. That first impression. Now he's talking one face to face live, but still that first few seconds are critical. And then if they open up a little bit, then you get them to open up more and more. And it's how you position that meeting that gives them a reason to move forward. So you got to be kind of tell them what to expect. And what I like to do is say, the way this usually works is I'll be honest, I'm going to end up asking a bunch of questions because I really need to have the full picture before I can decide whether we're even a fit. And if we get to that point where it looks like what we do well when it comes to retirement planning dovetails with what you're looking to do, then I think we can go as deep as we want to go and kind of help you and answer your questions. But the way I like to start the meeting is basically give you the floor and you tell me, why you're here and how we can help and what you'd like to accomplish. So, because the reason I do that is that I do want to set them up for expectation, but these people they're antsy. They got things on their mind they want to get off their chest, and you got to turn it over to them. This is my opinion.
Hmm.
Turn it over to them and let them vent why they're there.
Yeah.
And once you do that, then you just follow up the trail of all the information. Now, you should have a list of all the information you're trying to get. And I've got a fillable form that I'm constantly revising. But I'm sitting there taking notes the whole time. Tell me about that. Tell me about that. That kind of thing. So
That's awesome.
that's the start of it. I mean, I could go on forever, but I'll just.
And I think it's smart. Yeah, you kind of you're doing the first appointment is more not so here's a product what I recommend right off the bat, right? You're getting
Oh no.
to know, yeah, getting to know their reason, their why, what their issues are, let them bomb it. Like you said, I think
Right.
it's
I don't
huge.
even agree to meet with them again till the very end. They don't even know if we're going to go anywhere with this because
That's awesome.
I want them wondering whether I'm going to work with them because I tell them, we have to be a fit. And then at the end, I break the news to them. Well, you know what? I actually think we could possibly help you, and it'd probably be worth another meeting if that's what you'd like to do, something like
That's
that.
awesome.
Or I'll say, what I would recommend we do for the next step is let me put together a plan for you and see if there's anything in there that appeals to you, and we can schedule another meeting and go into that, and I can show you that. So it's kind of non-confrontational, but during that question and answer period with the client, there's two things I'm trying to accomplish. One is to build credibility by throwing some little tidbits of financial knowledge out there so they kind of get a feeling that I know what I'm talking about. And the other is to bring out the real information about that I'm going to be able to use to close a sale later.
Yeah.
And I can kind of go into that a little bit if you want, or maybe we're kind of getting off track here. It's up to you.
No, I think it's huge. I think so, and it's important that we cover the first appointment in detail, just because I think a lot of advisors drop the ball in that area when it comes to virtual. I think it's just like when it's in person, you have the office, you can build the credibility that way, right? But it's like on
Right.
Zoom, to build that trust and credibility is just a little bit more of a challenge. And so,
Yeah, I
I
can speak to that in a second here, but just to get this one thing out of the way is that,
yeah,
um, and I just learned this, by the way, so I'm always studying and learning. I'm going to a training next month with one of the top virtual selling people in the world. But
okay, cool.
I'll give you an example. You want to take a question 3 levels deep. So if you say, well, tell me what your biggest concern is in retirement. And let's say they say taxes. Now, typically what I would do is write that down. Okay, that's a good concern, assuming we all know what that is. We all are on the same page with taxes. Nobody likes taxes. Well, that's you can't stop there. You have to say, well, what about taxes concerns you? Now they're going to tell you. Now you're going to get some emotion build up. They're going to tell you why they are concerned about taxes, and then once you have that on the table, the step three is to kind of mirror it back a little bit. Well, if we could show you a way where that risk and that concern would no longer even be on your in your field of vision and not a concern for your family. In other words, we've solved that issue and you can concentrate on other things. How would that make you feel? And so now what you're doing is you're getting them to create a picture in their mind that has an emotional anchor, and then now you're talking on a different subconsciously on a different level than a surface level taxes. So this is what I'm trying to get better at.
That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah,
The three questions deep questions. That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome.
And
Uh,
getting back to the challenges of virtual selling, that my kind of view on this is that um, there are people out there that, and these are some of the ones we're looking for, that they have such an aversion to doing business face to face that to do business virtually is a huge relief. And these are the kind of people that you're probably not going to have too much trouble with. Then on the other end, there's people that they will come to a meeting with you and they will take the knowledge, but at the end of the day, it's very easy for them to say, "Well, this guy sounded great, but this is just one guy on the internet. This is one guy's opinion. Uh, if this guy was able to give us that much information, why don't we get a bunch of guys to give us free information?" And so, that's the problem there. So in the middle, you have to find people that maybe are not that eager to do business virtually, but they like what they see, and you've given them such good solutions and such solid knowledge, and you've built a rapport up in the meantime that you have, let's say, a 50% chance of getting that sale, which is, for those type of people, that's pretty good odds, because if you close half of them, you're doing great.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the two ends of the spectrum that I see out there, and you have to take every appointment and take it to the full duration to have a chance.
Gotcha. Awesome. So yeah, so you have appointment one. Are you usually doing like 3 appointments, 4 appointments per, depending
Um,
on the person,
it,
probably?
it's almost always three. You
Awesome.
almost don't want to do less than three.
Yeah.
Um,
So what would appointment two look like for you?
so appointment two is if I said I'm going to create a plan for you and we can go over it, then I'll put together a plan. And what I like to do is my my IMO will provide reports and illustrations and things to go over. But then what I'll do is I'll create an agenda for the meeting by looking at the response from my case designers. And the agenda really is to remind me what I'm going to be talking about, because when you have 50 clients in the pipeline, I mean, the very next day you may forget what these guys are trying to do. It's the only way to keep up with it. So the week prior to my week's meetings, I kind of go through all my folders, make sure I have all the illustrations, and then I read what my case designer said, and I put together an agenda. And the agenda will say, meeting with so and so, and give the date, and then I'll put status, and then we'll say, well, okay, these folks are in great shape. Uh, if all goes well, they'll probably never have a problem in retirement. However, there are some risks out there that there's no need to take on when you have the resources to mitigate those risks. So we're going to go into those risks a little bit, and then we're going to offer some solutions, and that's all kind of on a PDF that I'm sharing with them. So I'm walking them through the agenda, and tell them, what we're going to be talking about, why we're talking about it, and where we're going to end up. And then that
Mhm.
keeps me on track. And so then I just flip through, my presentation. You create a presentation based on what you think their hot buttons would be. You might show tax rates, you might show sequence of events, you might show two buckets. One thing about the webinar is the people are enamored with the two buckets, the safe bucket and the growth
Mhm.
bucket. I mean, you really got to hit on that, because that's, for a lot of people, that's why they're there. Um, so that's a second meeting. And then at the end of that meeting, it's, well, what do you think? Or you may not even get to that point. And they'll say, well, that's great. Can you send me that stuff? And I'll say, yeah, I can send it, but why don't we do this? Let's get you on the calendar so that after you review everything, I know you're going to have questions. We can get to those questions um,
Yep.
and get that answer. So what would be a good time for you? Would the same time next week work? So then you're in the third meeting.
That's awesome. And then third meeting is just paperwork, signing, and all that stuff, right?
Well, I wish it was that kind of dry. They don't come to that third meeting and say, "Where do I sign?"
No, they don't do that. No. Here's my money. Here's the checkbook.
So, you may send them some reading material. I try not to overload them, because then I think I come off like trying to sell them. But
Yeah.
uh, okay, let's go back over this now. What did you want to get answered today, or do you have any questions? And then honestly, you just go with the flow on that one,
Yeah.
and eventually it'll come to, well, what would the next step be? That's always going to be that's your closing moment.
Yeah.
And the next step is, well, you can't buy this today. I wish you could, but you can't. So we need to get you approved. There's financial underwriting. There's no health underwriting on an annuity. But while we're checking you out and making sure this is a good fit for your financial situation, what we can do is research the transfer methodology that your financial institution prefers, and that way, when you're approved, we're ready to go. So to get you approved, I need some information. Are you ready to for me to ask you some questions? And boom, social security number, driver's license. Then you just fill it out and
Perfect.
that kind of thing. So, or it could go to another meeting. It could
Right.
go to let us talk it over. And that's fine. Up to about 4 meetings, I'm good with it. I've really never gone beyond 4.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how that plays out.
That's awesome. I was talking to an advisor the other day who was just getting into like the virtual space, and he's like, you talked about technology in the beginning, and I know we're kind of nearing the end of the podcast, but have you ever had any issues with like people sharing documents or anything with you, or filling out applications and signing? Like, how do you combat that or educate someone on,
Well,
hey, I'm trusting?
um, I was trained to never send documents,
Mhm.
but that was in a different situation. So, we're positioning ourselves as educators, and sometimes I'll take just one page out of the illustration or one page out of the report and send it to them. I try not to send the whole illustration, although I don't know if you're supposed to do that or not. That's a compliance issue, but anyway, I give them enough to. I think it's only fair that they have a chance to look over the numbers. And I'll tell you, I got a huge case that I talked to um, yesterday. I think, yeah, yesterday, and I sent him the stuff. And that evening, um, he emailed me back. He goes, "Can you adjust some of the numbers on that report? Because I don't think we really had the accurate numbers, like on his wife's income." And so he asked me to adjust 3 things. And then he said, also, these columns on the annuity illustration, can you kind of explain those to me? Um, and I said, yeah, what's a good time? And so he set it up for tomorrow. So this is a huge case where I sent him some information and it's turning into another appointment because he has questions.
That's awesome.
Now he told me, well, we're looking at a couple of people to help us, and I don't know if that's true or not, but the fact that he's wanting me to redo this stuff for him and
Hmm.
explain everything to him, that's a really good sign. Because typically, if they're just picking your brain and moving on, you send them some stuff and you'll never hear from them again. So that's always a risk, is that they take your information and then they just shop it around.
Yeah.
Um, that I think that's a risk that you take, but you got to look at the flip side. What's the risk of saying you can't look at this? You have to, until you're ready to apply. I mean, I don't know. If I was not worried about losing clients, I'd tell them, I don't give my work away. If you want to
Yeah.
work with me, I'll provide all these documents when we get moving forward. But for now, this is what I have to offer. And if you have any questions, I'll go over with you via Zoom as many times as we need till you understand what we're talking about. But I don't just give my work away, because there's a lot of work that goes into it. That's another
Yeah.
way to handle it. I mean, that's up
Mhm.
to the individual agent.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think the reason why you're closing what you're closing is you nailed it when you said you're an educator and you're there to educate. And I think that's what makes it come across as like, whether what you're providing, you're just genuine, right? You're just,
Yeah.
here's information. I'm happy to help. If you want to work with me, great. If you don't, it's okay, kind of thing. It's just, it's like one thing that needs to happen more virtually. It's just educate. If they want to do business, they'll do business, right? It's no need to do a hard sell or, keep things secret,
Well,
right?
we're positioning ourselves that way in the beginning. So to flip into a hard close after you've told them you're just here to help them, educate them, and you could even say, hey, I'll tell you what I would do, and you can take that information and do it on your own, or you can ask me to help you do it. It's up to you. So you got to kind of be consistent with the message through that. And I really think that if you take that position, you're not going to get them all, but you probably do better taking that position than withholding documents. So you win some, you lose some, but I think by being the guy that's there to help them and educate them, you're going to probably get more business.
Absolutely huge. I'm smiling because I think that's perfectly on point. Um, Last question, and just out of curiosity, and if you want to share, great. If you don't, no, you can tell me no. But on this process and what we're doing and the appointments you're getting, what kind of business do you think? What's the goal for the year?
Um, well, first, let me plug you a little bit because
Okay, I don't do that, but
I, I'm the reason I'm excited and the reason I'm going to tell you the numbers I'm going to tell you is because I've this is exactly what I've been looking for. The people show up on my calendar. I rarely, if ever, have to confirm them. I mean, they are there like clockwork, and they're all qualified for something. Now, are they willing to do business right away and virtually? That's a whole different question. But we are selling virtually. All we can expect is to have somebody show up and they're qualified to be a client. The rest is on us. So I can't ask for anything more. I can't ask for people to show up and say, "Can you please sell me an annuity?" That's not going to happen. But what I can ask for is that they don't no show you. They're not, in poverty level. And so all those check boxes are done. So if I can get in front of the number of people that I can get in front of, that quality, I believe that I will be successful. And I'm thinking, I would say uh, this first year, I would say just conservatively, I would say between 300K and 500K a month of volume.
okay.
So, 4 to 6 million, and next year double that. I think I can do a million a month um, within 12 months if I continue to improve. A million a month. I mean, I've got cases where, um, like I got this one guy. It's 700K. That's one case.
Hmm.
That's who I'm meeting with tomorrow. So um, I might just also add that the way I view these leads is there's kind of low hanging fruit, which these are people that actually probably need us more than the wealthy people, and
Hmm.
they're like write this on whether they're going to make it or not, and you can move 100K or 200K or 250, something like that, and it's not a huge decision because they're kind of going to be in trouble if they don't lock in some gains and create some income. If you just get those, you're probably going to do 300. I mean, I can't see less than that, to be honest with you. I could see doing, well over between 500 and a million a month right now, but I want to temper my expectations because it could also go like this. You might have a good month and I don't know, but
Yeah, ebbs
um,
and flows. But
and then there's the ones that it may take them 6 months to be comfortable and trust you. I mean, it's
mhm.
possible. Uh, but I've got one I think it's tomorrow. Oh, it's later today. That's going to be 3 or 400K. So, and they've already said they want to do it. So, I mean, to do a million in a month, if once you get rolling, is a pretty reasonable goal, I think.
That's awesome. Very cool. Well, thanks for the plug. It wasn't necessary, but
Well,
thank you.
it's the truth. And
Yeah.
when you're out there, as an agent, it's like, how do I get people to talk to? I know my business, I have great products, but getting in front of people any other way is really difficult, relationship wise or referrals, brick and mortar. It's none of that is easy. And so not that this is easy, but it's more consistent.
Yeah. And there's a craft to it, right? I mean, kudos. I mean, yeah, like I said, we can get you the appointment and get you in front of people, but you're starting to get the craft of working people virtual and closing business. So it's awesome. It's fun to see it.
Well, it's a
Um,
numbers game. So in the beginning, you may just get the super, super easy sales, but if you just get enough of those to keep you going, then you're buying yourself the time to learn this properly. And that's I'm still in the learning stage. So I'm just happy to be growing, making a sale here and there and getting better and better. And I'm not really even looking at, well, this is going to generate X amount of income. I think it will, but my focus is improving every day and getting consistent with that.
that's awesome. Well, very cool. Well, thanks, Lynn, for hopping on the podcast and
Sure.
sharing some of this stuff with us. And then perfect. So yeah, appreciate you.
Okay. Take care.
Yeah, I'll stop.